Now, earlier in the show, we spoke about Leila Khaled, who is a convicted terrorist and criminal who will be speaking by Skype, of course, at UBC. I do believe in freedom of speech. I think there are some natural, inevitable limitations to it. But if you are a criminal, if you have indulged in violence, deadly violence, there are some issues. Obviously, there's a context here of public safety. If you haven't broken the law, though, you should be allowed to speak in this country. Pamela Geller has been not regular, but a frequent guest on this show. I spoke at one of her conferences down in Dearborn, Michigan as well. I don't agree with everything she says. I'm sure you don't agree with everything. I mean, that would be virtually impossible, but I think she's an important voice to be heard. But that is not the point. You hear this time and time again, well, I believe in free speech, but that's going too far. What do you mean that's going too far? I cover many of the demonstrations in Toronto by Islamist groups. And no, let me rephrase that, not even Islamist groups, Muslims. A huge demonstration outside the US consulate. Many, in particular, Shia Muslims from Pakistan and India, actually. And they were saying, yes, we believe in freedom of speech, but you don't have a right to criticize the Prophet Muhammad. Well, that's not freedom of speech, is it? Pamela Geller, invited to speak in Toronto. She'll be on the show. She's going to come here in a couple of weeks' time. If you don't like what she says, don't go. If you don't like what she says, go along and ask her difficult questions. But, as always, the attempt now has been made to silence her and prevent her. Meir Weinstein, National Director of the Jewish Defense League in Canada. This came out last night. We immediately got you on the show. And I was incredulous. The man who was to host her, Rabbi Kaplan, who's a wonderful man and a friend, he's been on this show several times. He's chaplain to the police, York region of the police.
Right.
They visited him and said, if you host her, we're firing you?
Essentially, that's what they said. That we had a meeting just before 6 o'clock at the synagogue, myself and a couple of other people from the Jewish Defense League, and he told us what happened at a meeting that happened earlier that day with the police. And they said to him, if you allow the event to happen at the synagogue, at the Flamingo synagogue, that we will have no contact with you anymore, and you won't be a chaplain in York region anymore.
We know who the police officers were who made this.
Yes.
This threat.
Well, that statement, anyways. Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how to react. If she was a criminal, if she was calling for violence against an identifiable group, I can understand the police saying that this is a problem for us. Mm-hmm. She believes in intolerance. She speaks out for persecuted minorities, gay people and Christians and women in Islamic societies. No convictions. Islamic hate preachers come to this country. The police may monitor them, but they don't try and prevent them coming in.
Yeah.
What happened here?
An Islamic group approached the police, or some Islamic groups approached the police. We don't know the identities, and the police didn't divulge. And they said, we don't want this person, Pamela Geller, coming here, and appealed to the police to prevent her. And the police went to the rabbi, just like I said, and forced him to pull out, hanging this threat over his head.
And he has decided that...
Yeah, he doesn't want to compromise his position as a chaplain.
Now, there are, and I have to phrase this carefully, there are concerns from officers, serving officers, and in particular retired officers from the police in the city of Toronto, but not only, in Calgary as well, that there are worrying things occurring. People being told to be very gentle with certain groups and not so gentle with others. Promotions that are occurring that are surprising certain people. When it comes to Islam, it's a respected religion and people have to be treated with equality and fairness and empathy. But calls for violence, I mentioned demonstrations. There are posters calling for nation-states to be destroyed. The most horrendous, hideous things. Calls for people to be executed. Now, the police will look at them and sometimes sniff a bit, but they don't seem to do very much about this.
Yeah.
But here we have... And look, if we've got this wrong, there's a chair there for the police to come on, and I think they should. They're public servants. They're our servants to tell us what happened. But it seems that they were influenced by Muslim groups. Thus, they pressurize a very good man, a rabbi, unless you prevent freedom of speech in your synagogue, you're no longer the chaplain.
A block away from the synagogue is an extremely large Islamic center, mosque and a school. It's a huge grounds on the west side of Bathurst, right around the 407. And in this place, they publicly say they have commemorative services annually, every year, for the Ayatollah Khomeini. You go on their website, you're connected to radical Islam in Iran, you're connected to Lebanon, to the Hezbollah, to speeches by Nasrallah. They have events where they invite politicians, they give out plaques, and they give out plaques to police, high-ranking police officers. Former police chiefs were there. I think the police are turning a blind eye to who we should really keep an eye on and trying to threaten people who want to do something about a problem that exists. The most recent examples of terrorism, when they nabbed the people who wanted to blow up via rail and what just happened in Boston, this doesn't happen in a vacuum. There are organizations that openly preach this. There are groups here in Canada and the United States that are totally affiliated with the Muslim Brotherhood, with radical Islam, with Iran, and they preach violence and death. And in the Middle East, you turn on Al Jazeera, you'll see what goes on in these countries.
Now, is it true they also said that Immigration Minister Jason Kenney's office had been contacted?
The police informed the rabbi that the Islamic group or Islamic groups that approach them have also contacted Jason Kenny's office to try and prevent it from coming in.
That doesn't mean anything. We can all make a phone call.
Of course. But that's what they said to Rabbi Kaplan.
It sounds like a very politicized policing to me. This is what I find very worrying. I don't mind the cops being almost robotic. They're just doing do your job. I don't care right or left. You get in my way, you're in trouble. Okay, but it sounds here as though they're actually taking a position and taking a side and taking a point of view politically.
It's outrageous, completely incomprehensible. We live at a period of time when terrorism is running rampant, when organizations are calling for the death of all kinds of people in the name of Islam, when we had the most recent cases of terrorism here, home, in Toronto and Montreal and in Boston, and that the police should carry out the wishes of radical Islam to silence someone that wants to shine light and reveal what the problem is here in Canada. It's totally outrageous.
You've lost that location. What are you going to do? Is it the 13th of May she's meant to be?
It's Monday, May the 13th. Right. No, we got other locations that are going to be, it's not going to be a problem. The show's going to go on. No problem.
You might not know the answer to this, but what would happen, for example, if Rabbi Kaplan even attended the event? Would he still be fired as chaplain?
That's a good question. No, he's a good man, but to have that threat, intimidation is, again, it's completely outrageous. Completely. I'm
Police chiefs have spoken to Islamic conferences that are effectively fronts for the Brotherhood.
Yes.
Okay, she'll be on the show when she's here. We'll even promote this event because these people have to be told. They can't. I've seen this. Tariq Fatah was on the show earlier. I've seen the way Tariq has often been, not often, but sometimes been treated by the police. His concerns have been ignored. I've seen other forms of double standard. It's not just the Islamic community, but frequently so today. I've seen at demonstrations where on the Muslim or certainly anti-Israel side there is abuse and anger, and the police seem to turn a blind eye. And then we'll have a demonstrator on the pro-Israel Jewish side, and that person is threatened. If you do this again, you'll be charged. If you do this again. So we'll have you back on the show. Thank you for being here.